Starting field of 231, the final three men find themselves in unfamiliar territory. Yes, they have won their fair share of poker tournaments in the past. Yes, they have what it takes to go all the way. But it is not every day one comes this close to a slot at every poker player's dream. A seat in the main event of the World Series of Poker 2013. That must be looming in the back of their minds. Eddie Kronholm, the Swede who has been a Philippine resident for years, is on the crest of his first major championship. But he'll have to play stellar poker to beat former perfumery consultant turned tournament shark Rene and the solid and aggressive Richard Hot Sauce Marquez. Only three to contest the biggest chunk of the 1 million peso guaranteed prize pool, the title, and the WSOP shot. Today, the PPT Leg 3 titleist is crowned. Find out who next. Welcome back. We are down to three, and the two Filipino players are dominating this three-handed table. Rene Pacaira still on top, Richard Marquez nipping at his heels, but don't count out Eddie Kronholm. Another double up from him, and he could be right back in the picture. Lines are up 25,000, 50,000 with antes of 5,000. Kronholm with 5-4 offsuit is going to step aside. Pacaira has King 8 of diamonds, and he's just going to call a check from Richard Marquez with 8-6 offsuit.
Heads up.
Bob, we're going to see a flop. Advantage Richard. He's got position, and he's the cager pit player post-flop. Change of pace here. Rene decides to do his bluffing after the flop instead of before.
Player calls.
But Richard, unbeknownst to him, he's got an open-handed straight draw, so he's not going away that easily.
9-7-4 with two spades. The turn is another 4. It's a check from Pacaira and a check back from Richard Marquez. The river is a queen.
They check it. They both got nothing, and I think they both know it. And Richard, he can't win with a busted draw 8 high. He has to try to win by stabbing at the spot. Rene.
142.
Well, he's not going to try to catch Richard bluffing. He's going to raise over him. And figure that if they both have nothing, the guy who puts in more chips should get the spot.
A very daring move from Rene Pacaira.
He's really taking it to Richard. He's not. He's trying different looks. He's betting before the flop. He's check raised here in this river. It's all very confusing to be playing Rene right now. And Richard, as good a player as he is, even if he figures Rene for a bluff, he has to put a lot of chips in to get him off that hand, and he's not willing to do it. Good job, Rene.
A pot of 857,000 goes the way of Rene Pacaira here, three-handed at the PPT.
My name is Eddie Kronholm. I'm from Sweden, 22 years old, and I'm a poker pro. I started playing poker when I was 15. First online, first play money. But since I was 17, I have played professionally, only online. But since 6 months back, I played live. But still, I prefer online and everything. My biggest achievements is probably online and everything. I play mostly cash games online. I have no big cash in tournament, but it's good. I played PPT leg 1 also. So I heard it 2 weeks ago that PPT leg 3 is going to be. And I'm friend with Richard Marquez and Peter Albrecht. In the Swedish way, poker is classified as sport. So I know it's very much physical. If I win, I probably not gonna do so much for the money because it's not like a life changer.
Three-handed action here at leg 3 of the Philippine Poker Tour. Rene Pacaira will step aside, And it is the powerhouse 7-4 offsuit for Richard
Call.
Marquez.
Oh, he's gonna see a flop with it, or try to. Completes a small blind. Eddie's got a hand. He can just check behind, see a free flop.
Check. Heads up.
Not a lot of chips
Cards.
behind him.
The flop is 3-6-5.
Oh
Check.
no!
Wow! Richard Marquez has flopped a straight.
And he quickly checks his straight. It's the nuts.
Bet.
Eddie is betting out with top pair here.
90,000.
There is nothing but trouble for Eddie here. Not even another 6 is gonna help him. He doesn't have any heart draws. And Richard, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna
Player
well,
raise.
he's gonna raise it already. Figures already that Eddie has put in enough of his chips to probably put the rest of it in. He raises.
Oh!
You really, that this guy is good. He just said that Richard flopped the nuts.
And he's gonna call it anyway.
I don't
They're
get
all
this. Eddie's instincts called out Richard's hand. He was right. He was dead on, but he puts all his chips in anyway, hoping he was wrong. But he's not wrong. His instincts are correct.
But his actions were not.
His actions were not. But look, a full house is brewing here for Eddie. If he catches a 5 or a 6, but he called out the hand. That's amazing. I mean, both he and Peter have shown that ability.
River card, it's a 10 of hearts.
It doesn't pay to be right if you put your hand in the wrong.
Something like that.
Something like that. Eddie called it out, and he still put his chips in with a worse hand.
Eddie Cronholm will finish up here in leg 3 of the Philippine Poker Tour. In the 3rd place, Richard Marquez with a pot of almost $1 million pesos. And we are down to the last 2, but first we will hear from Bianca Saldua, who is with our 3rd place finisher, Eddie Cronholm of Sweden.
The competition keeps getting more intense, and we have 2 players left. Unfortunately, we have our 3rd guy right here, Mr. Eddie. Now, you are one of the youngest who was at the table, and probably in the entire Philippine Poker Tour, one of the youngest players. So how does it feel to go up against veterans?
I think it's very overrated to say they're veterans, but it was okay. I have played poker a very long time, so I feel good.
So thank you so much and good luck. Would you like to say anything to all of your friends, your fans, anyone?
Thank you. No, thank you for the support. Thank you.
Taking the risks or playing it safe. There are so many decisions that you need to consider when you're playing in the Philippine Poker Tour. But one decision that you should never consider is changing that channel, because we have more action just for you.
One of the most heartbreaking experiences for any poker player is the dreaded counterfeit. When you're comfortably ahead, but then somehow the turn and sometimes the river conspire to bring you absolute misery. Let's take a look at this example. I have gone all in with pocket 5s, and I've been called by ace king of spades. The flop is a 10, an 8, and a 7. So I'm very comfortably ahead. Now, look at what happens. The turn is a 10, and the river is an 8. Now remember, in poker, any player can use any of the cards, whether they be the cards in his hand or the community cards or the board. Now, this player has 2 pairs, 2 10s, and an 8. His kicker becomes an ace. What about my pocket 5s? They have been counterfeited or rendered useless by the appearance of the 10 and the 8 here. So all I can make is 2 pairs, 10s and 8s, and my kicker is a 7. So in effect, my opponent has outkickered me with his ace, and I have lost the pot. Here's another example. I have gone all in with king, queen of clubs. To my horror, I am called by pocket aces. However, the flop is wonderful for me. King, Queen, Deuce. So I have 2 pairs against my opponent's pocket pair. However, the turn is a 4, which is a blank, but the river is a 2. And all of a sudden, my opponent has 2 pairs just like me, only his highest pair, aces, is higher than my highest pair, kings. And I have to give him all my chips. Counterfeits can make you feel so terrible that you might want to quit playing poker altogether. Please don't, and enjoy the rest of the show. And here is our chip count at heads up. Rene Pacaira with 2.6 million and Richard Marquez with 1.8, but still anybody's ball game.
It's such an interesting matchup here. Both of them have shown the ability to put in insane bluffs, rebluffs, advantage of the chips, Rene Pacaira.
Well, Ron Regis, after 6 days of battle, we are down to the last 2 players, a heads-up showdown here at leg number 3 of the Philippine Poker Tour. Wonderful atmosphere here in the Metro Card Club, and it's Rene Pacaira from Makati, the man they call the Silent Killer, who has the chip lead in heads-up with 2.9 million. And behind him is Richard Hot Sauce Marquez from Dagupan, Pangasinan with 1.7 million in chips. One of these gentlemen is going to take home that first prize of 398,000 pesos. Ron, I guess Rene Pacaira is probably excited that he has a chip lead, and he should be the odds-on favorite.
Well, Bob, I don't want to say that a chip lead means nothing, but when you think about the blinds, these stacks are pretty deep. 1 or 2 big pots, which certainly Hot Sauce is able to create and take down, can even it up really quickly. So I'm not going to say that the chip lead means nothing, but it's still anyone's poker game at this point.
Well, Richard Marquez will be certainly trying to pinch some of those pots, but Rene Pacaira for sure is glad to have that big chip lead. Without further ado, we'll turn you over now to our dashing tournament director, Brian Malantic.
These 2 players came to the power table as the 2 leaders. Now your heads up. These 2 players are playing for the title, the champion of the third leg of the Philippine Poker Tour. So the 2 players with 1,702,000 chips is Richard Hot Sauce. The larger player has 2 million with 9,700,000 the Silent Killer Pacaira. The players, we have players it's Shabondi.
And we're off and running here in our heads up at leg number 3, and it feels like a Davis Cup tennis match right now. It is noisy in here.
Yeah, you've got all the placards from the audience, the chip. What's going on
Rene
here?
Pacaira's gone all in with King 6.
And Richard looks at him like as if to say, so it's like that. And Rene says, yes, it's like that. That's how it's gonna be.
Richard folds and Rene Pacaira takes the blinds. Looks like that is how he's gonna play this heads up, maybe.
Setting the tone, as you mean to say, and he's got the chip advantage, building on it. He's got the crowd advantage, more placards in his favor, if that means anything at all.
On to our next hand. It's still pretty noisy in here at the MetroCard Club.
There's a contrast of styles and a contrast of supporters. A lot of the guys who like to play fancy poker, who like to emulate Richard's style, while a lot of the tighter, quieter guys, they favor the style of Rene, and they're all behind their man here.
6-4 offsuit against 4-3 offsuit.
Rene checked his option. Flop aces.
Ace 9-3, and Rene Pacaira's hit bottom pair.
He's at bottom pair, and Richard, though, has the advantage of having position
Rene checked
and the superior playing
Richard
ability,
bets
but doesn't
80,000.
matter. Rene calls his bet.
Rene calls.
We're going to see a turn.
Turn card.
And the turn
Six
card
of
is a
diamonds.
6 of diamonds, so Richard now ahead.
Now ahead. Now he has everything going for him, and he chooses to check behind since he feels he has a hand now
Check,
that
check
can
from
stand a
both
showdown.
players. River card.
Jack of spades, and it's a bet from Rene Pacaira.
That's a big one. He bets about the size of the pot, and Richard has seen this before, and he's gonna see it again. Gonna look him up.
3, 4 off
It's the
suit.
exact same mistake that
Three
Rene
on
made,
the
and Richard
blocker,
just picked it
threes
off.
versus 4, 6.
Big pot with such a small hand. That is the skill of a Richard Hot Sauce Marquez.
Fourth pair beats
Four, six
fifth
for
pair.
Richard.
Big
Hits the
pot
six
there
on the
for
plan.
Marquez, 670,000.
Here in the Philippine Poker Tour, you're going to meet some of the loveliest dealers in the country. And one of them is Miss Josh right here, who is actually teaching me how to pitch. She is so pretty, and I think we can pass for sisters, don't you think? More action from the Philippine Poker Tour when we return.
And in spite of that last win, Rene Pacaira still a healthy lead over Richard Marquez.
Richard took down a fairly decent sized pot, but the Rene has taken a ton of uncontested pre-flop pots just by shoving it in.
But of course, anything can happen in heads up. Lines are 25,000, 50,000, antes 5,000 in heads up. The small blind is the dealer.
Call. Option.
Well, there's a hand he's not going all in pre-flop with. It's actually playable, but he just comes in, completing the small blind off the button, which gives Richard a free look at this flop.
5, 8, 9 rainbow. Richard Marquez has top pair, a dreadful kicker, but it's still top pair, and he's gonna bet
He's out
100,000.
for 100, and he's re-raised all in just like that. Rene is trying to end this hand.
He likes his overcards, and a big decision now for Marquez.
How big is this decision? There's 200,000 in the pot, but Richard has to call 1.8 million his whole tournament if he chooses to go with this pair of nines
To win 4 big blinds.
to win 4 big blinds. But something is not right, and Richard knows it. I'm telling you, this guy is that good. I mean, when you bluffed as many players as he has, he can
He's
smell
gonna
it.
make a call! And Jojo Aliado wants to have a look as well.
Everyone wants to have a look. This is such a big bet on such a strange board in an unraised pot, and Richard, he went with his gut there, and
He just
big
needs
ups for calling.
he just needs to fade a king or a jack. Rene Pacaira feeling a little bit sick right now.
Well, he could catch a king or a jack and finish it just like that, but it's out of their hands now. This is what Richard has done the best a poker player can do. The rest is up to the turn and river.
And there's real pandemonium here right now.
There's people shouting
Turn
for
card, it's a 4, no help to Rene.
kings. It's a brick,
Just like a 12% chance, I think, here.
something like 12%, which means it could happen.
River card, it's an ace!
A blank, and Richard is rewarded for a tremendous call. That's a 3 million chip pot with 9 deuce.
With top pair and the worst kicker in the deck to win a relatively small pot for the investment, but he sniffed something, stuck to his guns, and has snapped off the biggest pot of the tournament, you would think.
Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking what went through Richard's head there. He looked at the flop, he looked at the size of the bet, the way it was played, something did not make sense for him. I mean, what could Rene have been sitting on a flop like that would merit a raising 3 million over a 200,000 chip pot?
And he's getting the good vibes there from his posse. They are loving it.
Rene just gave up the chip lead. He had Richard covered, but he's got change coming to him in the form of just a little over 1 million, and he's now out chipped severely. I mean, let's put it this way: Richard, we know, has advantages post flop, very seasoned post flop player. Now you give him a 3-1 chip advantage as well. What's that leave for Rene in terms of strategy? How is he going to play the rest of this match now?
Well, Rene is hoping that cards will speak for him in the remainder. He has really got his hands caught in the cookie jar there, just over cards, and they didn't come. And Marquez has played magnificently. And,
The
well,
hot sauce fans love this, and well, I think Bob Rene's got to go back to what's been working, shoving it pre-flop, taking pot after pot.
and this is Malu, our dealer now for this hand. And she is taskmaster here. She's showing Brian what she wants to do. And Rene Pacaira with pocket fives is shoved all in, and Richard has pocket threes.
Richard has a hand he can actually call with. I mean, there are a lot of hands that Rene has been shoving. King 6, it could be Ace King, Ace Jack. Richard could be ahead of a lot of those hands. He can end the turn here. Call!
Oh, he calls quickly. He's going to be sick to his stomach when he sees the pocket fives of Rene Pacaira.
Well, he had to take the chance to end the tourney right there. He had Rene Pacaira on the ropes, but he comes back swinging with a pair of fives, a bigger pair than Richard's got right now. He'll need to catch a 3.
When your heads up, even baby pairs are hands that you can attack with or you can call with.
Well, especially if you're going to pre-flop shoving like Rene is doing. He's just daring Richard to call him and try to catch him with or without a hand.
8, 2, 4, 2 clubs on the board. There's a backdoor flush. Not anymore.
There could have been a club on the turn, but there isn't. So now he needs a 3.
Not gonna get it. Rene Pacaira wins 900,000. And that should put him back in the driver's seat.
Just like that, Bob, they are both back to roughly around 2 million each. Richard still got a slight chip lead, a little over 2 million, but we're back to pretty much where we started. Richard thought he could end this match right here and now, but he's gonna have to play some more poker.
The wild swings of heads-up poker are what make it so thrilling. And Richard Marquez loses a big chunk of chips there. Rene Pacaira relieved to see his pocket fives hold up. Now let's learn a little bit more about Rene Pacaira.
I'm Rene Pacaira, 38 years old, from Makati. I first played poker in a house game with my friend 3 years ago. Mga kaibigan ko naglalaro ng poker. In-invite nila ako. Sabi ko, sige, patry ko. Nung natuto ako, dinala ako din sa Metro. I joined the PPT because I want to join the WSOP. My goal is, I want to be a poker pro. Kasi pag poker pro ka, parang sikat ka eh. Parang basketball. Mas gusto mag-poker pro. Kasi sa chess wala namang, hindi ka naman kikita sa chess. Parang katuwaan lang. Pero yung sa poker, marami ka napapasaya. I-share ko sa mga kaibigan ko, kasi gano'n naman ako pag nanalo ako, binibigyan ko rin sila. Yung matitira sa akin, para sa family ko na lang. May the best poker player win.
Lines remain the same. Richard Marquez still with a healthy stack. He's got a very strong hand here for heads up. Queen 9 off suit from the dealer button.
He does have the button. If they see a flop, he's got a big advantage. Positionally, well...
Oh, Rene Pacaira, fearless, re-raising all in with 7, 6 off suit.
It's, again, he's saying this is how it's going to be. I mean, the last time they saw a flop, it didn't work out well for Rene Pacaira. So you know what? He's going to take away the strength of Richard, take away his board reading skills, and just end the hand before the flop.
And a big win there for Pacaira. And the blinds are reaching stratospheric levels right now. 30,000 and 60,000. The ante alone, 10,000. And Richard Marquez, ace-5 offsuit in the dealer button, and he's just gonna call.
Change his strategy. I mean, he raises, he gets reshoved all in, and now he lifts in and he gets shoved all in anyway.
Surprise, surprise, Pacaira going all in with King Jack.
Pretty decent hand.
Yeah, Richard's ahead, but he doesn't. He's kind of gun shy at the moment.
Even if he knows, even if you turn up King Jack and show Richard that his ace high is ahead, it's still tough to put the entire tournament on the line on a coin flip with live cards.
60-40 is ahead, right?
Yeah, but it neutralizes all his advantages if he chooses to play this coin flipping game with Rene Pacaira, and I think Rene knows that. He's taken it away from Richard.
Rene Pacaira wins another hand as it's starting to get real quiet here in the Metro Card Club. His strategy is continuing to work. More action here from Heads Up in Philippine Poker Tour Leg 3 here on Solar Sports. Richard Marquez, King 7 offsuit. And once again, Rene Pacaira shoves with Ace 9 suited.
There's just nothing. Richard is just totally out of his element here.
And now, let's learn some poker strategy from my buddy here, Ron Regis.
Hi, I'm Ron from the Asia Poker Academy. I'm back with Ace Queen offsuit in my hand, and I want to talk to you about taking advantage of information. The beauty of live poker is that there's so much information, it would be a shame for you not to use it. Now let's say I raise pre-flop with this hand. I get a caller, and the flop comes down something like Ace 9-5 rainbow. I make a bet, and the person in the pot against me makes a raise. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I look for information, and I see this. What do you think I should do? Should I re-raise him the minimum? Should I call? Should I just shove all my chips in, or should I fold? Welcome back. I'm Ron from the Asia Poker Academy, and we were talking about taking advantage of the information on the table. Now here's where we are. I've flopped top pair, top kicker with my ace queen on an ace 9-5 board. I make a bet, I got raced by this guy, and now I have to decide what to do. Let me tell you what's wrong with calling. The information is telling me that this guy is very, very happy. Bluffers never get this happy. What the information is telling me is that whatever he has is worth dancing for. And that's why the correct thing to do to this top pair, top kicker is to fold. Fold when you see this.
Bob Guerrero and Ron Regis here bringing you PPT leg number 3 here on Solar Sports. Richard Marquez, he's been hamstrung here in Heads Up with Queen 5 offsuit in the small blind.
We're going to try to make another play at the button, try to change it up with a raise. And let's see what Rene does. Hamstrung is the word that you use.
All in again for Rene Pacaira. What else is new?
That is the hamstring move. There are no flops coming Richard's way, and he cannot use his skills that way.
And Marquez is just looking so frustrated right now. Let's learn a bit more about this great poker player, Richard Marquez.
My name is Richard Marquez. I'm 31 years old. I'm from the province of Pangasinan. I stay here in Manila for work before as an accountant, but I shift to poker as a poker pro. Kasi naglalaro akong basketball, na-injured ako. And then I start playing poker 2009. Ako, accounting grad ako, all numbers, tapos in accounting, analyzation, lahat andun. Ganun, kaya malaking bagay yung aking natapos na course in this field of game. Kasi as in talaga, 0-0 ako before eh. And then nakaipon ako ng bankroll. Naka-loan sa bangko yung lupa namin. Tinubos ko because of poker. Ang mapapayo ko sa mga aspiring poker players, be humble, be patient, sapat nandun. Tapos, keep on learning. Message ko sa mga kalaro ko, everybody, men's game. Pagalingan. Kung sino mang manalo, congrats.
What a character Richard Marquez is, and what a talent as well.
Well, right now there's a lot of water in that hot sauce. He's watered down, but he's got a hand now. Probably the hand that he's been waiting for. Well, here we go.
Rene's gonna go all in again with Jack 10.
Yeah.
Call.
Richard says, time to dance.
It's time to shine now for Richard Marquez. The players stand up. Everybody here is standing up, except our dealer.
The dealer cannot stand up even if she wanted to. But back to Richard, I mean, he's been negated. He hasn't seen any flops that he could play with, so the only other alternative is to wait and catch Rene shoving and hope he has a hand inferior to his. And this is exactly the situation he's been waiting for.
Live cards, Richard is roughly 60%, over 40% ahead.
If the board turns up all deuces, Richard would take this down. That's how to illustrate that he is ahead of this matchup.
The flop, 2, 7, 3, 2 hearts. Richard doesn't mind that flop.
Yeah, Rene doesn't have any hearts, so there's still only a jack and a 10 that can turn this around for Rene. He's got Richard covered, so he will get some 300,000 back should he lose his hand, but this is a huge, huge pot.
How Richard would love to see another heart here, just to take some outs away. 3 of spades instead. No help. Richard can taste that Mike Takayama's pumped.
After hand after hand after hand, Rene has punched Richard with an all-in move, and he'd have to give up almost every button in a heads-up match, which is disastrous when you can't play your button heads-up. And finally, he's got Rene right where he wants him. Just needs to dodge one more card.
Nina Castro wants to see how this hand will wind up.
Anything but a jack or a 10. Richard will have a 15 to 1 chip advantage.
River card. No help! It's a 7 of spades! Richard Marquez now has a massive lead against Rene Pacaira, and he's closing in on that title.
They haven't sliced the cake yet, but some people have started celebrating. It's not over though. Rene does have 326,000 coming back to him, still a little over 5 big blinds. However, with the way this has been played, you can just see that Rene's gonna be shoving the next 2, 3, 4 hands, and Richard is gonna have to call him at one of those encounters. But right now, the good news is Richard Marquez has finally caught Rene Pacaira shoving with the worst hand, and he's taken over 4 million, and possibly on the cusp of becoming the champion of this leg bar.
And you know, with a stack like that, he can call just about anything.
And he'll call anything with almost any 2 cards.
And take a look at this chip count. Richard Marquez lording it over Rene Pacaira. What does Rene have to do to get back into this game?
Well, he's done everything the way he wanted to do it, and he has to keep doing it. Keep shoving, keep daring Richard to a coin flipping match, and hope he catches up.
This is Richard Marquez's tournament to lose. And Rene Pacaira has won 1 hand, so he's given himself a little bit of a cushion.
Well, every hand he takes uncontested is 110,000 back in his stack, and that counts for a lot. So now he's got about close to $500,000, about $500,000, and good enough to shove again.
Ace 9 offsuit. Richard Marquez has the doggy hand, K9. He's gonna call, and he's not gonna like what he's gonna see.
Well, yeah, he does not like it. His hand is what you call dominated, Bob. And only the king is live now. The 9 is no longer live. At first glance, king 9 looked like a good hand to end the tourney with against, you know, he would rather that Rene had pocket 8s at this point rather than ace 9.
Ace 9 about 70% to 30% in the lead, and Richard Marquez really putting lips to that cross at the moment.
It's very slim now. The 9 is not live. As I said, he needs a king to end this.
The flop is 7, 10, 10, 2 clubs, and there's also a backdoor flush draw.
Or club draw for Rene. Not that he needs it. The ace high alone is looking to be ahead.
The turn card coming up. Will it help Richard Marquez?
Nothing short of a king will help him. That doesn't help.
It's a 7. Both players now have 2 pair, but
it helps a little in that Richard can spike a 10 or a 7 for a chop.
Rene Pacaira's ace kicker over Richard Marquez's king kicker. So Richard needs a king here. He's not gonna get it. 5 of diamonds. Rene Pacaira doubling up.
Backed into a corner, close to getting knocked out but Richard called with the wrong hand at the wrong time. Not that you can blame him. He tried to end the tournament, tried to finish him there, but instead he put Rene back over the 1 million mark.
Some breathing room now for Rene Pacaira. Can he somehow get even more chips and put some pressure here on Richard Marquez?
So crazy the way this has gone back and forth, Bob. It's like it's never gonna end.
After watching a few episodes of the Philippine Poker Tour, you probably already have the idea that it can get pretty stressful for the players. And that is why we have people like Kuya Edwin right here, a veteran masseuse who has been in the MetroCard Club since the very beginning. And I need a break, so Kuya, pasample. We'll be back after this.
And as we move forward, Rene Pacaira continuing to fight, winning small pots here and there, and he's built up that stack again, and he's got a good hand here. Queen Jack offsuit from the dealer button, the small blind in heads up, and he's just gonna call.
Change of style here. Well, it's been a pattern. He tends to call with these paint cards.
Jack 3 for Richard. The flop is Jack 10 Queen. Oh boy, somebody's gonna get hurt here in this hand.
Well, Richard, it goes check, check, and Richard could have folded to any bet on the flop, but now he's not folding trip jacks. And in fact, he leads out with a 200,000 chip bet.
And Rene Pacaira is just gonna call it.
How stiff his shoulders are, containing the excitement of having a full house and your opponent betting into you.
Rene Pacaira. It's gonna go all in. No surprise there.
Well, he's got to go all in. Oh, Richard.
And Richard's gonna call.
Probably had to take a little time to think about this. On the turn, Rene could have called with a bunch of draws, but shoving on the river, he had to think if Rene had so much as any kind of jack in his hand, that Richard's kicker was way worse.
Richard cannot believe it that his three-of-a-kind jacks is not going to be good enough because Rene Pacaira has a full house and has seized the initiative here with this massive pot of 2.6 million.
This is just awful timing because Rene has shoved every pot, not allowing Richard to see a flop. The one time he lets him see a flop, he gets set up. Now he has to pay the full price.
And these two players now are almost even in chip counts, with Richards ever so slightly ahead. And Richard Marquez is still in the lead, but that 15-1 chip lead he had has completely evaporated.
It's gone, Bob. It's just gone, and it's got to be frustrating, demoralizing to be so close to finishing your guy, and now you have to look him in the eye with the same number of chips as you.
Richard Marquez.
He looks like cold sauce now, Bob.
He actually calls himself fish sauce when he's not playing well. He has a wired pair though. Threes. And from the dealer button, he just calls.
I assume he wants to get shoved into here and he can snap call again. He would definitely be ahead of something like King Jack, but there's a flop.
And Rene Pacaira has picked up top pair with a very good kicker, and he just checks.
Well, he's going to let Richard hang himself here. You can smell the check raise coming. Some play is coming here to end this hand.
He bets 190, just over half the pot. Rene Pacaira goes all in.
Never one to disappoint. There's got to be an all-in in every hand when you're playing Rene. Now, that seems to be a strategy, and it's so hard to play against it when you're a player like Richard who wants to see turns and rivers and catch bluffs and do all that stuff.
And I don't know about this.
Yeah, you can't really show your hand to anybody, so he gets a warning there from...
But he's folded anyway. At any rate, Rene Pacaira now has jumped back into the lead here in our heads-up battle. What a comeback! Rene Pacaira in the lead. What a huge comeback. And he has a hand here, pocket eights.
I love this play. He's going all in.
Going all in.
Richard counting out the chips, trying to figure out. I hope he figures out that he's actually covered. If he calls here and he's wrong about this hand, it's over for him. But the thing is, Rene could have all kinds of hands now. It's just Richard is completely lost. He could have pocket eights like he does. He could have 9-6 offsuit.
Ace-7, very, very weak.
Normally very weak, but given the way these two have played, it's looking like a hand he can just call and flip with it, and that would be Richard playing Rene's game, and that I think is how Rene got back into this.
Rene Pacaira way ahead here.
Covered na naman si Richard.
He knows he's covered.
He knows he's covered.
If he's wrong about his overthinking, is the ace and the 7 live? Is he up against something like King Jack?
Yeah. He's gonna make a call! And he's behind. He's put his money in with the worst of it. And
Hail Mary tayo.
Hail Mary and Attorney Jojo.
Yeah, he has 3 outs here. It's stunning to me. I mean, I understand how he could make the call given that Rene has been in his face throughout this match.
The flop. 9-4-9 rainbow. That's a flop that Rene Pacaira likes.
Looking worse and worse, I swear. If Richard catches an ace here, he's gonna have Pacaira on the ropes again. But if he doesn't, what a comeback!
Turn is an 8. It's over. It's a full house. Rene Pacaira has won it. Has won leg number 3 of the Philippine Poker Tour. Unbelievable finish.
This is what's going on in Hot Sauce's head right now. My silence, that's what's going on in his head. It is just stunning how this whole thing turned around in a few hands.
And he is just...
Shake his hand. It's over, dude.
Wow. Rene Pacaira joins Rebel Magdangasang and Dexter Luna as champions on the Philippine Poker Tour. And just an unbelievable finish there.
What a string of plays by Rene Pacaira. Some of them questionable, but all of them ballsy for sure. And he made it a guessing game for the Hot Sauce.
Mrs. Pacaira is loving it. She has some pocket money right now, and Richard Marquez looking ashen at the moment. There's your champion, Rene Pacaira, 398,000 pesos richer. How about that? What an unbelievable finish to leg number 3 of the Philippine Poker Tour. Rene Pacaira is our champion, but before we get to our winner, I'd like to throw to Ron Regis, who is with our runner-up, who also had an incredible tournament.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Isa lang ang tanong ko kay Richard. No? Alam natin na going into the heads up, mukhang ayaw niya makipag-post flop sa'yo. Pinaghandaan mo ba yung magiging strategy niya doon?
Oo nga, kaya nga naglilimp ako halos lahat. Pero nagkamali ako eh. Lahat ng mga tulak niya, ako kumukol, dapat ako nag-aggression eh. Di ba? And then, wala, hindi ko masabi kung paano.
Well, if you could do it again, uunahan mo na siya next time sa ganong klaseng style.
Ganun pa rin siguro, kaya lang, syempre, swerte rin siya eh. Magagawa.
Congratulations pa rin. Second place is still second. Over 200 players ang tinalo mo to get here. Okay, back to Bob.
Okay, congratulations, Richard. Now, kasama ko ngayon ang ating kampiyon. First prize winner of 398,000 pesos, Rene Pacaira. Napansin namin sa heads up na sobrang aggressive ka pre-flop. Hindi mo siya binibigyan ng chance na outplay ka sa post-flop. Bakit naging ganyan ang strategy mo?
Kasi kilala ko siya eh. Magaling siyang player. Kaya baka ma-outplay nga ako. Yun.
Okay. Na tatanungin ko rin yung inyong kabiyak na puso, si Angie. Angie, anong nararamdaman mo nung medyo malapit na matapos ang heads up?
I was just hoping and praying that no bad beat, please. No bad beat.
Okay. Well, hindi nga nagkaroon ng bad beat. Well, Rene, you have now qualified for the Tournament of Champions in the Philippine Poker Tour. You have a chance to get a seat in the WSOP. What? Are you looking forward to that? What are your thoughts about that?
Paghahandaan ko talaga yun. Yung WSOP.
Okay, congratulations. Now, I'd like to turn over to the founder of the Philippine Poker Tour to formalize the giving of the awards, none other than attorney Jojo Aliado.
I'd like to thank everyone who came out to play despite the inclement weather. The typhoon was upon us, but still There was a good sizable crowd that came to play. Maraming salamat. Kayo ang nagdala ng saya dito sa ating laro. Ang susunod na yugto ng ating Philippine Poker Tour ay dito rin sa Metro. Naasahan ko, mas marami pa maglalaro next time. Congratulations. Meron kaming binibigay na laptop para paghandaan mo rin yung online poker game mo. Yun lang. Salamat po.
Okay. Okay, and of course we'd like to acknowledge our representative from our gracious host, Nina Castro of the Metro Card Club. And of course, our fantastic tournament director, none other than the dashing Brian Malantic. So thank you, all of you, for making leg number 3 of the Philippine Poker Tour so amazing. We look forward to seeing you in leg number 4. Before we say goodnight, let's have some parting words from Bianca Saldua.
Out of the 234 players, we give our congratulations to Mr. Rene Pacaira, our third leg winner, who will move on to the Battle of Champions for that one seat for the World Series of Poker main event in 2013. We look forward to seeing you in the next leg of the Philippine Poker Tour, where poker only gets better. This is Bianca Saldua here at the Metro Card Club in Ortigas, and on behalf of the hardworking men and women of the Philippine Poker Tour, we wish you a good evening.